Welcome to Pull the Chart. Today, my friend Patty and I will be pulling the charts for the author James Frey, who became famous/infamous for his book A Million Pieces. We will pull the charts around the author and the controversy surrounding his first book. We will also look at the charts for his newly released book, Next to Heaven. Enjoy. Okay, so we have charts to do. So I was flipping Instagram and came across, and this guy was interviewing James Frey, and he said some things that I was like, oh, I'm like, who is this guy? And I went and listened to the podcast. So we are going to pull James Frey. So this is what happens with Betty, right? We're reading something, we see something, and then we go, pull the charts. Oh, see, pull the charts. So then we start kind of digging into the person. So pulled the charts. So James Frey is a writer. Mm-hmm. He is born in 1969, however old that makes him. Probably Gen X. Mm-hmm. But he wrote Million Little Pieces, which was what brought back Oprah's book club. So we'll go into that as well. But there are things he said about live wild, live free, be who you are. You don't have to follow the rules. And I wrote down some of the quotes, but it was things that kind of I think right now, especially for younger generations too, is just you don't have to follow the rules. And I thought some of his messaging was really good, especially for inspiring people. Lots of notes, by the way. But what I thought we'd do is we'll pull his chart first, and then we'll kind of go through some of his life things, because he has a new book that just came out as well. But his story is really interesting, and it lines up with this chart. So here he is, right? We don't have a birth time, so we don't have a true ascendant, but we know he is a Virgo sun. We know that his moon, he's either a Virgo moon or a Libra moon, which as we go through, I think we kind of tried to figure out where he more lands, but he's definitely in a new moon phase. He was born as a new moon. So it's still kind of dark when it's a new moon. So something to consider. Okay, so general thoughts on this gentleman's chart.
I think it is. Well, we love our Virgos because they see the whole picture.
Right.
They see the whole picture. The thing that really struck me about James is his candidness about the punk philosophy, and that's where that wild child comes in. He literally doesn't care what people think.
Yes.
He is there to tell a story. He is there to give you an experience. And if you read A Million Little Pieces, you were in that story right through the thick of it. He's an excellent storyteller. It gives you all the details that you feel it. And digging deep. I mean, it's a loose conjunction with that sun of identity next to Pluto, of going deep and excavating and getting in the dark nook and crannies, and exposing what that looks like.
So in his interview on that Rich Roll podcast, he talks about wanting to put people in the place of the character. So he talks a lot about art and this emotional truth, because he wants people to feel the experience, which I thought, with that sun and Pluto as well. He's I'm not going to just tell you about the experience, but you need to live this rebirth experience. And the book is about his, it's written as a loose memoir, right? With extra added storytelling in it. But I also, one of the first things when I had pulled up his chart to be who is this guy? This is where the nodes are in the sky, right? So we just are having the North Node in Pisces, South Node, Virgo. And I'm oh my gosh, he came out with another book. And it's his first time in 15 or 17 years doing any kind of interviews in the US. which I was like, oh, this is just such an alignment for him to like come back out. Yeah, his writing with having the Libra there, or Mercury and Jupiter, like he has big goals and he wants to be the best writer. He wants to be provocative. He wants to be the defining voice of the generation. Like that was his goal. I went back and was like reading the notes of the podcast, and I was like, oh, well, we need to look at his chart to see. He says he was born with a rage in him. And I was like, do we see that in the chart?
Yes.
Would you say it's like the Pluto square Sagittarius and then squaring his nodes, the moon lighting up that Pluto, no matter which way you go, that'll be a conjunction.
I think it's also Pluto right next to his south node. He came into this world with this,
He was born with the rage. Oh yeah,
I agree.
He just says
I
he's
agree.
born with the rage. That would totally be born with the rage. With the Pluto right there.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And any way you look at that moon, it's either an out of sign conjunction or it is an in sign conjunction with Uranus. That he came in feeling like he had to make the change. Came in feeling like he's the one who is going to make the change and change you and change the way you see things and how you feel about things, and be the change for, those Libra feelings of relationships and how you see things. I think one of his quotes about A Million Little Pieces was he wanted a mother, for example, to know and feel what her child was going through in the throes of addiction.
It's so wild that it's like the South Node in Virgo. And it's just being like the nodes are ruled by the moon. And
yeah.
He's literally writing this probably to a past, maybe a past life mother.
Right.
He didn't understand what he was going through. Oh, as two people that took evolutionary astrology, right?
That's right.
That South Node holds more than you think.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So we don't know the time, so we don't know exact houses, but he has so much Virgo and Libra. Anything else?
Yeah, I would agree. I would agree with you about that Mars and Sagittarius. Mars fights for the underdog. Mars fights for what Mars believes in. And if you think about Sagittarius, the minstrel, the wanderer, the philosopher, beliefs, getting people to see things from a different level.
It's interesting. It was called his first big book, A Million Little Pieces, right? Because Virgo is so like detailed with every piece, and then you put it all together, it probably makes a big puzzle like Sagittarius. Like, how do all the pieces fit into the big picture?
Yeah. Yeah.
I hope someday someone goes back through my life and does this for me.
I'd like them to do it now. Thank you.
It'll just be a hologram on my headstone.
Yes.
Okay, so here he is. He's born. I'm going to pull the chart for when his first book launched, The Million Little Pieces. Okay.
Great. Yes.
Okay. See it?
Yes.
Okay. So here he is. First book launches April 15th, 2003. So can we see a book launch through here? So this is the Million Little Pieces book, kind of sets off his career. He's got the nice sun trining his Mars, right?
Yeah.
So putting it out into the world, and it's in Aries.
Aries.
His starter book, his first book, right?
And it's explosive. It exploded.
It did. It did. So he was doing good with it, right? He had just recently had his first baby. He's a new dad. You have, you have Jupiter squaring his Saturn. I guess it was, you're putting out your own work, right?
Yeah, your hard work.
Mm-hmm. Back then you had to promote more too, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like you didn't have necessarily the social media, the Instagram to put it up there. It's probably a
No.
little more work to get your actual book read in the magazines and the list. Okay, so he is just after his first Pluto square there too. So good times. It is almost like a rebirth, right? It's another layer,
Exactly.
another chapter in his life.
Exactly.
Let's see, where were the notes? And anything else here really stand out to you? Oh, he's got the Saturn is opposite. Saturn is opposing his own Mars. Saturn in Gemini. A lot of Saturn action going on here, which
It
is
makes me
interesting.
wonder how the book was received at the beginning with Mars, pushing it out there in something that you really believe in, and Saturn being so constrictive.
What was written, so in his contract, right? So he talks in this podcast about his contract that he wanted it to be sold as a novel.
Mm-hmm.
They put in the contract, well, like publishing decides what's the best way to like market things commercially. So they put in the contract that they could publish it as a memoir. But then he also
Mm.
put a clause in the contract to indemnify him, that indemnified him from like saying whether or not everything in the thing was truthful. Like he was indemnified from like having to say that, or so that, because he knew it wasn't, he wrote it as some facts, changed
Sure.
characters, changed stories, kind of livened them up a little bit, adjusted
Mhm.
some timelines, because he didn't want any of the people actually, for you to figure out who the people were.
Right. Right.
So, um, so he was like in the thing, he said, I did not say to the publisher that this is like perfectly factual. And that clause helped keep him kind of protected. So he was saying too, like when he was out there promoting it, that like when the people asked him, like, is this true? He asked the publisher, like, what should I say? And they're like, yeah, say it's true. And he came back now and he's like, that was probably a mistake to do. He's like,
Hmm.
I was just like, following along with like, it's his first book. You don't really know. Right.
Right. Right.
So I wonder if that Saturn, some of that Saturn there was to do some of this like restriction in terms of like how it was put out there. Because he has a lot more. I think one of the reasons why I kind of was drawn to him too is he has a lot of creative freedom. And I think a lot
Hmm.
about like everyone's always like, I want abundance, I want to manifest abundance. And I'm like, oh, he gets to decide what he writes, what he puts out there. He's total control. And I was like, that's really what freedom is. Like he's kind of
Absolutely.
achieved it, but clearly from the beginning, he's having to
Hmm.
work very hard to get to the point he is in his career now. So he gets approached by Oprah's team, right? She had stopped her book club. She read his book, was like totally drawn into him. And there's even a quote that he was the man who kept Oprah awake at night. It's like the quote about him in his book, right? So she can't sleep from reading this book, has her team reach out to him. So he is listed as one of Oprah's book club books in September 2005, and then goes on the Oprah show on October 26, 2005. So I'll pull the October 26th chart. I don't think I can adjust it on this. Okay. So here he is. He's on the Oprah show. This is October 26th. So he comes on and he thought, because whenever she had authors on the show, they talked about like the writing process and the inspiration and things like that. And it turned into more of a self-help thing, which
Hmm.
kind of like threw him a little bit like, okay. From the show, he sold 5 million copies, which is insane. Okay, so here is the day of the show, right? Here's the show. Got Pluto and Venus right there on his Mars, which good,
I think
right?
it could be. I think it could be. Yeah.
That's right. Yeah, I mean, people seem to like clearly wanted to read the book,
I have to
right?
admit, I was one of those.
You read the book.
After the Oprah show, yes.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And then you've got Mercury over the Neptune, right? So here he is thinking he's going to talk about his process. Here's his writings. It's in Scorpio as well, because the topic
Mm,
is addiction, right?
mhm.
And I was like, okay, that's really interesting. You're got Neptune, which is related to mind-bending substances.
Yeah. And the story. It's the
Mhm.
story. He's telling his story.
And he's still got that square, but Venus is also now squaring his South Node Sun and Pluto.
Mm.
So what do you think of that?
Well, Venus could be Oprah.
Could be Oprah. Mm-hmm.
Venus could be, we're putting some values on this story that perhaps he didn't really want to talk about. You know,
Yeah,
this is not a self-help book. This is a story,
right.
you
Yeah.
know.
It's interesting that it squares the South Node of like, you still didn't quite get your message out right.
No,
Right.
no,
Once
that's a
again,
good point.
your truth is
Mm-hmm.
skewed a little.
Mm-hmm. And we're
Yeah,
just gonna
this,
glamorize it a little bit. We're just gonna make it really pretty. It's
and you've
not a
got,
pretty story.
I mean, you also have the moon over his own Venus.
Yes,
So women, right? The moon is usually
right.
associated with women, and you had all these women who watched this show who then went out and bought these
Hmm.
copies.
Right.
So, and then what you have, um, Mars and Taurus was trining his sun as well. So he did get a way big boost in like his face, who he
Sure.
is, money.
Money.
Mhm.
Exactly.
So yeah, this seems like a good day for him,
Hmm.
right?
Hmm.
Not bad. Things are going okay. Then this smoking gun article comes out January 8th, 2006, which I did pull the article. It is for a site that like, or a magazine website that didn't like him. They wrote the longest article to where at points I was like, oh my gosh, this doesn't stop. But they went and tried to fact check all of
Oh.
his things. And they were like, well, we couldn't get a hold of this court. Couldn't get a hold of this. And this doesn't line up. Right. So they went through and like just nitpicked through his entire book. And then he goes on the Larry King live show that week because clearly this had like blown up, right? Because he's such a huge author. So should I pull up? Would you like to see the smoking gun or Larry King live? Not much will have changed
Hmm.
between the two. Well, we'll pull up the smoking gun article first.
Yeah. Let me see that.
So this is the smoking gun
Mm.
article, right? So now we have little just past his Mars, right? So here we are, probably. It's confession time, right? The
Right.
actions are being tested.
Right. Right.
Um, so he had, okay, so the moon that day was right around his Saturn, as is. The Mars had just gone. So it's kind of like his actions are being, and his words,
Sure. And that Saturn square there. Ouch.
not fun.
No.
Your first Saturn, that would have been first Saturn square, right? So that would be, oh no, this is, yeah, it's the first one. So the first,
Right.
like, what changes do you need to make?
Yeah.
So he's definitely learning about contracts, right? Writing contracts. Um,
Yes.
the South Node, I think, is interesting because it's going over it's getting closer to his Jupiter, right?
Hmm. Hmm.
So this is going to, and over Libra. So here the partnerships are getting tested.
Right.
Partnership with Oprah. Okay, so then we have him on Larry King Live. I don't think we can call it Larry King. Larry King Live. He goes on and gets interviewed. Still have Pluto's in the same spot, right? Some of those are still in the same spot. What's interesting is that moon is getting closer to his vertex, past his vertex that night of like fated events. Vertex is those like important moments. That lovely,
Well,
look at that sun, Capricorn trine to his own south node. So this is where he's got some of the pieces are coming out.
but I think it's lovely. It's a trine. I mean, it's not lovely, but I mean, it's not, I think that was helpful for him. I think he was more supported than when you look at everything else that's happening here. He probably did feel like he was under attack with the moon opposing his Mars there.
Oh yeah, and it's squaring his
Yeah.
Pluto. Yeah.
So, like, there is the reporter digging everything out for him. So he has to fight for what's happening right now, but
Yeah.
also saying, wait a minute. This is my story.
Mm-hmm. It's interesting too, you say like fight for, because I'm just having all the tarot cards this weekend, and Pluto is the judgment card, and it's the fight of your
Right.
life, right?
Fight of your life.
Fight of your
Yeah,
life.
that's
So
what it feels like.
it's interesting too, because I think as you go through his story, the media is his biggest enemy. And it really comes out here. And then at the end of the show, Oprah calls in. So she calls in and she's like, I 100% support him. She said, wrote down, she goes, she made a comment about there's a difference between real truth and emotional truth. I was like, oh, he's always talking about like art plus like this emotional truth. Like that's kind of
Right.
his thing. So, which even now, when I think about society, is that the truth I see and the truth someone else sees isn't exactly the same, depending on how we process it.
Exactly. And you can see that right there with the his Venus opposing Neptune.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I would he seemed
You know,
as like
this
handle
chart
this.
is a mixed bag. There's a lot of support in here and then some really, really gritty,
Pretty big
hard
scale.
things for him.
It was nice to see that like Oprah came out for him, but then she had to like change her view, right? Because the backlash from that was not great.
No.
So because of this interview, which it doesn't look like it would have been, I mean, you've got that Pluto on your Mars too, probably about like people coming after him. It was interesting that like when you think about the Sun and the Venus in Capricorn, you had Larry King Live, who was like #1 watched at the time, right? And then you had Oprah, who was like #1. You had this like these two powerhouse
Right. It feels very
foundation things.
parental.
Yeah, right. Here's the mom and the dad, the son
Exactly.
and the coming out here trying to support you.
You are grounded, James.
Well, it's interesting because what Neptune was in Aquarius, which would have been how does the media, Aquarius has a lot to do with media, how did the media portray it and use it,
Right.
right? Like they wanted to spin it one way, and that's what they did.
Right.
Okay, so from this, right, bit of a fallout, Oprah decides, she pitches to him, let's do a show called Truth in America. And it was supposed to be like he's on it, other people are supposed to be on it. It's all supposed to be talking about the different types of truth. So we'll pull the chart, but he showed up at the studio 30 seconds before walking on. They go, oh, by the way, this is really the James Frey controversy show. Here we go. So completely did not tell him the truth, which he has said I would have still done the show if you've called it what you originally were going to call it. But here's another moment of the media like completely trying to pull a fast one.
Yeah, they did.
Okay, let me pull that up. Okay, so here is the day of the Oprah show. He comes on. The moon is now on his Mars. Poor guy. His Mars is clearly a trigger moment in his life.
Mm,
Uh,
mm-mm.
so we still have that Neptune opposite his Venus. But now you have the Mars trining his Sun. So here he is again, defending himself, right?
Right.
So what's going on here? Well,
Well, if you,
Jupiter squaring his Venus.
yeah, in Scorpio.
Two fixed signs. So
Yeah.
they said after the show, the comments on the show was that the people were in support of him,
Mhm.
but the media clearly was not, right? And then he had in this part of the podcast, he had made a comment that the last like few months he had been recording his phone calls. He felt like something was off. So he had been recording his phone calls. And I was like, oh, there must be this like paranoia that must have been in him for a while. So he'd been recording phone calls. Her people called and were like, just want to make sure he wasn't going to like unalive himself. She called to make sure. Then she told him about the stuff in her own book that wasn't true. And he has it all unrecorded, but he has never once put it out there or done anything. So that to me is like very interesting
Mhm. Mhm.
because he doesn't necessarily like he talks nicely of her, but he's not like we're friends. But I feel like he's holding something and like this just like kind of made the comments like if they were to dig back through her life, it just reminded me of like the Epstein files, right? Like if we let this out, more things will crumble and come down than you think.
Right.
So I'm
Right.
like, okay, so there's some serious stuff there that was kind of interesting, but also like he's not blackmailing her or using her for it, but he definitely has something in his back pocket if he ever needed to. Um, I guess the sun would have been almost conjunct, well, pretty much conjunct to Neptune, but it's very wide. I'd assume like just kind of being blindsided
Well,
as
I'm
to
also
why you're really
looking,
there.
right, right, right. And then I'm, getting little visuals here.
Mhm.
I think it's Rebecca Gordon who said Neptune will glamorize the sign that it's in. So it's in Aquarius.
Mhm.
And Aquarius is about the people. It's about, community. It's about that, and it's opposing Venus and Leo, who, they are very proud. It's a very proud sign. It's very open-hearted. It's giving. It's, you know, lovely. It's a fire sign, so it will fight. It won't, can't put a Leo or Leo in a corner
Mhm.
here. So here you come, the glamorized or the delusion of the people, and you have this gladiator almost feeling to this Venus and Leo, holding their own in this fight.
It does feel like the Oprah show was the Mercury, Neptune,
Yeah.
Sun. Like we're gonna go on the air, we're gonna kind of like shock, surprise him, and he just kind of like stood there and held his own and was like, "No, this is fine. Let's talk about
Yeah,
it." Mhm.
exactly. He doesn't strike me listening to him and just his story, just who he is. He wouldn't strike me as a vindictive person. He's more of a mind of yeah, everybody does stuff
Okay, but
as long as it doesn't hurt me. You do your own stuff. He doesn't ever feel like that, which doesn't mean you wouldn't get recorded. I
Right.
don't,
I
yeah.
feel like I think one of the other things listening to it, I felt like I wrote down like Mark, a mastermind. He's got a bit of a
Yeah,
mastermind to him. He's
exactly.
like, yes, I have this piece on you because he ended up going and working and interning for a day at Gawker, which was another media publication that kind of liked to tear him apart as well. And so, even though the media is his biggest nemesis, he then went interned for a day there. So they kind of use each other,
Hmm.
right? So it's like, um, yeah, it's like they use the situation for like a bit of their own publicity.
Sure,
I feel
sure.
like he does talk. I noticed in the thing he talks about, there is the art and then there's the performance art as well.
Hmm.
How you're the writer, then you have to market it, so you're the performance artist. And he talks about how you have to like glamorize this lifestyle, even because he was saying like rock stars are like one way on stage, but they might be something else at home in their own private. And he was
Right.
talking about how writers and artists oftentimes have to have this public side image
Hmm.
that might not actually be true because it helps sell this. And I was like, oh, you start to see like the little, I feel like he's a little mastermindy, like putting it all together. And then
I
through the
think
years, like what the second or third book he wrote, he like literally the first line was like, this is not factual.
it was the opening sentence.
Yeah, he like
Yes,
wrote it to be like, hey, because I literally have to spell it out for you now.
exactly.
So
Hmm.
I thought that was like really interesting, but he talks about like you have to demand attention, but polarize audiences. And I was like,
Hmm.
gosh, you guys really did like using the media. That's why I feel like I'm like, yeah, he's really cool. But I was like, oh, he kind of nailed the idea of marketing and villains and nemesis and who are we for and against at the same time, like doing the thing of holding up the mirror of like, this is what society's like, right?
Hmm.
So
Hmm.
everyone is.
I think he mentioned that in his podcast interview, saying that he brought up Arthur Miller and how he was so controversial and wrote about things that we don't talk about in society, behind
Right.
closed doors, maybe,
Mm-hmm.
and he wanted to be controversial like that. He wants to be like that. He wants to be remembered
Right.
like that, that he's the next person to bring out this controversy. And he did. Well played. Well played.
With your first book too. Like
Exactly.
when you read the smoking gun article about him, like they went back and interviewed classmates and they were like, he played soccer. It almost makes you go, did he at all have some of these things? But like he's a great storyteller. No matter what, he was able to create this great story.
Mhm.
But yeah, but when you read the like 8-page Gawker or like smoking gun article, like they really tried to find things. And I know it kind of makes you go, I don't know if I believe him or not, but I'm like, also he's not saying this is fact. So it's fine.
Right, right.
It's fine.
And
Mm-hmm.
he's got a great attitude about that too. It was
Yes.
still a 7-page article.
I, I didn't finish it, I'm not gonna lie. I didn't finish the article. So, okay, so he goes on, he continues to write a few more books.
Mhm.
He stops writing for a while because he wanted to focus on his family. He also has a pen name and he writes under a pen name. And he does like some like, is it like tween type books
Mhm.
type thing, right? And then he came back and he has this whole way of like how he writes. Um, and one of the things he talks about is supposedly during his rehab that he went into Taoism and studied the Tao. Meditation is a huge part of his life.
Mhm.
So that was kind of very interesting as well, because when we look at his chart, I'll pull his regular chart back up, but like, do we see that in his chart? But also, I want to pull up. So I'll pull up the date of his last book that he just launched, which is Next to Heaven, which I want to listen to. It might be the first book I Kindle listen versus read myself, only because it sounds like it's a um more of like a Danielle Steele fun one. But he is writing about his town, right? He lives in a Connecticut town, but it's kind of set, it's the 1% of the 1%. And like, what do you do when you have so much money, and how do you entertain yourself, and what goes on in the town? Which I think would be fascinating. So, okay, I'm gonna pull up. So this was the release of this book, because I think right now everyone is really fascinated by the uber wealthy, the 1%. You hear about it all the time.
Mhm.
So here he is writing a book about basically the people in his neighborhood, without saying the people in his neighborhood, right? I'm sure some of them are reading through it going, oh, what did he put in about me? But I was like, oh my gosh, I was like, here is his.
Oh, the nodes. Oh, wow.
Mhm. So I'm like, oh, he's having this nodal return, this moment of like
Yeah,
coming back into the public.
right.
Um, and I
This
was
was
like,
his first interview, right? In the US with Mr.
first interview in
Roll?
like, I think in like since, I think it said since for 17 years, 15 or 17
Wow.
years. So we'll pull up the date of that interview, the launch date of that podcast episode. This is his. I also love that this book is launched when it's a 0 degree Mars here, since
Yeah,
Mars seems to be so influential in his life.
right.
Sometimes I gotta wonder if like some of these people actually know astrology to like
I, I hope so.
to plan out things as well.
Right.
Like, come on, right? So no matter what, if his moon is a Virgo or a Libra, it still would have been trining Uranus. So here he is coming back out. The book is about shocking things that the ultra rich do, like Uranus and Taurus.
Mm-hmm.
It's shocking what people do with their money. Um, yeah, you also got,
Yeah, it does feel like a little tremor of an earthquake.
right? He's like, we're going to slowly start to expose what you,
Yep.
because you have to get inspired by something, right? Usually you
Hmm.
hear something and you're like, gets in your brain and you're like, we change a couple things and alter this. And yeah,
Well, yes, and Pluto trining his own Uranus. Lovely.
yes. I mean, I just think
He
it's funny.
is a mastermind.
I really do. So I'm like, he's in line with like how he's like planting things in stories. And he talks about his process of like how he writes the book. He like meditates, and then a week before he goes to actually write, he like gets off his antidepressants, stops the meditation, and he goes to wherever he needs to go to, like hidden off to
Mhm.
write, and then he doesn't edit. And now he claims there's like no editing to his books besides maybe
Mhm.
like a capitalization or something error, but there's no editing of like the content of the sentences. And then his newest publisher, so he didn't do an advance, he took 65% cut of the sales. So he's got total control. He got total control of the
Mhm.
cover. He takes control of his covers, control of all the words in it, which to me is like so much freedom, right? And I'm like, it's really, I kind of like that Pluto Uranus thing as well, as
Yeah.
like this, like he's kind of taken a bit of control.
And his power. I mean, he's really standing in the power of the whole situation.
Mm. I'm like,
My money, it's all my money.
yeah, it's like I'm taking, yeah.
Mhm.
So I don't know, I thought
In
this was,
59 days, he went into this, what did he call it? A fugue state and just wrote this book in 59 days.
yeah, it's wild to me.
Hmm.
It's really, really interesting. Then he talked about he said on his way to that podcast, he like in the car can like get into his meditative like deep state to like calm himself. Just like really interesting how he like pulls together both the meditation kind of. I mean, you and I have been reading all these books about intention and plasma, Magdalene, but just like getting into that center zone of like, how do you tap into your own unconscious?
Right.
So I felt like he was like also someone who just popped on the radar of mine in the midst of reading some of these things. Okay, so I'm going to pull up the date of this podcast, the Rich Roll podcast. Doing his first podcast. This is the launch date of that podcast, so his voice is going out over the airwaves.
Oh,
What do you like? What do you like? What do you not like?
what I love Jupiter right on those nodes. It's almost like I am back and we are turning the ship right side up here.
Oh, yes.
And like it or not, I am here. I am here and I love, well, it's pretty loose, isn't it? That trine with Venus and Mars.
Oh,
Ooh.
yeah.
Yeah, I love the nodes. I feel like I'm back and loud and I have a lot to say.
I think so. Anytime like Jupiter touches or plays with, I feel like a North Node. You win the presidency, you win the Super Bowl. Like these are the markers of the last two things. Yeah, it's kind of nice. I do like that his Mars, once again, his Mars is involved, always with Mars on him, trining the sun. It's Leo. Also, that the fact that this book seems to be about people that think they're like kind of like kings and gods of the world, right?
Right.
This is like Leo, I'm up on my pedestal. So I was like, oh, that seems really interesting to me. Then again, you still have this Neptune, which, let's be honest, people are sitting there going, is he talking about me? I wonder if that's like the people in the neighborhood. Or what is
Well,
well, I also need to listen to the book because I'm sure it's pretty got some,
yeah,
I believe
and
there are some parties in it that are, people were a little bored.
it just feels very Hollywood,
Mhm.
though, with Neptune and Venus. It just feels very glamorous and very deliciously obscene, is what it feels like.
It's good. We need a little juicy beach read for this fall.
Yeah.
I do like that the Mars in the sky is like right between his Venus and Jupiter. It too would be and where his moon is, which you thought, did you think he has more of a moon in Libra or a moon in
I
Virgo?
do. I would feel more Libra. Okay, going back to some of our other discussions, the way he speaks about Oprah, I feel if you had a Virgo moon, you would be a little more critical, maybe, or you would
Okay.
be a little more detailed about a conversation or a situation that happened. A Libra sees both sides. A Libra wants fairness and beauty and relationship and let's keep it going no matter what it takes.
Okay.
That's why I feel he has more of a Libra moon
So that
than
would
a Virgo.
definitely have that Mars activating his moon.
Yeah.
He did say in the podcast I think he reached out to Rich Roll for the interview. I believe he
Mhm.
like that he kind of like picked, I would like to do this with you. So
Yeah,
that's interesting.
they identify with some of the same life situations they both share. So
Yeah.
it was
It's the
really
first
good.
time I had listened to him, Rich Roll, as
Yeah.
well. I should probably admit
Mhm.
that. So
And it was beautifully done. Rich
it was
Roll,
long, but it was good.
it
Yeah.
was good. And he even said, this doesn't sound right. I'm having a hard time believing you here.
Yeah.
So it kept the conversation very lively through the whole thing.
Mhm. I think it's interesting. He's got it's like nodal return, like it's a fresh, this is another chapter in his journey. Although
Yeah.
he did say that men after a certain age don't write any good books, but women do, and I felt that was very refreshing. There is hope.
Right.
But I thought that was great.
Right.
He
Yeah.
did. I think he talked about, was it Toni Morrison? Is that, no, he talked about, what was the female authors? He was like,
Oh,
women,
shoot.
women can keep
Mhm.
writing great works. He goes, but men can't. But he talked about like the mental and physical toll of putting
Mhm.
all this energy out there.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Also, the same day, his moon went over the vertex again, or the moon in the sky. That happened earlier as well. So I
Mhm.
feel like he's just in these moments that happen. And this all came about because of some silly Instagram like story. Popped up in the search for me. Who is this guy? Yeah. Interesting though. I just thought he was like, I loved his idea of his drive for wanting to be the best. I like that he also has read a lot of the greats. Like he read the Henry Miller, the Hemingways. Like he is really does understand literature and authors. So it just seems like a really
And
good
and
person.
art. He spent hours and hours and hours in museums looking at all the art and seeing what made them original.
Yeah.
I love that about him. He just admires the spark that people have
So
to create
he
their own original artwork.
so he talked about something that you and I have like recently talked about. But he talked about crafting his bad boy mythology.
Mhm.
And you and I have talked about like how important to get messages about out. It's usually through like myths or folklore and things like that. So it's interesting, like I'm starting to see this word
Yes.
coming up more and more and more.
Yeah.
Um, so I thought that was interesting to like hear that word as well, but also like it's a part of as an artist, like what is the myth around you? He just talked about a lot of really interesting things that kind of I feel like hit really well right now.
Hmm.
Um, he said there's a lot of glamour around creating this effective mythology of who you are and the interesting life you lead. So it's how many times you see these Instagram people with these like fabulous lives, but then the moment they like, well, this is me in real life, and it's like, oh, I don't want to see that. Oh, I have real life. Oh. The other thing that he said, um, which I thought was really funny too, is he's had a lot of lawsuits and protests about him. And he goes,
Hmm.
that just means I'm doing the right thing. And I just think about now in society, like anytime there's someone feels like they're wrong, they're like, I'm going to sue you. I'm going to protest this. And I'm like, oh my gosh, maybe you need to shake things up. Um, the other thing is he talked about cultural fascism in publishing.
Oh, yeah.
The whole idea of like, can a white man write about a female? Um,
Hmm.
and so you and I have talked about like writing, and I would like Google around on some of these like publishers' sites and stuff, and these book publishers, and they literally state, I want like this diversity of this and books about, you know, LGBTQ or whatever. It's like they're looking for specific things versus just looking for good art.
Hmm. Hmm.
Which to me, I was like, oh, it's so true how this is like, he's like, everything now at a lot of these publishers is vetted by lawyers, cultural committees, and safety committees.
Right.
So, how much of the messaging does the media control? And all of it, right? Did I
Oh,
answer?
absolutely.
Yeah, but
Hmm.
it was interesting to also think about it from like this standpoint of like what they'll even accept into read. Like you could be the world's greatest, but if you don't fit their four boxes of what they want to put out because they feel like this is culturally what the agenda that we're pushing,
Hmm.
was like, oh, I'm proud of him for like throwing that in there a little bit.
Exactly. And I feel that's why he went with a different outlet for publishing this book.
He did say he was, I could publish anywhere,
Hmm.
but he really wants to maintain the control.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Exactly. Hmm.
So I thought this was great. This is typical Sharon and Patty moment of read, see something, see a photo, and be like, "Who's this?" Oh,
It
they
is.
they astrologically are going through their nodal return. What are the odds? Like,
Hmm. Hmm.
interesting how people pop on the radar who end up being having significant moments.
And to take the chance to live those significant moments. He lives his significant moments.
Mm-hmm.
Some people won't. We never will.
Yeah,
We
he
may
definitely.
say, I want to write something, I want to make great art, I want to be the best at whatever, whatever, but we get bogged down into, believing other things. Maybe we can't, or we don't have time or whatever. But this man did it. He really lives his life out loud.
through through his characters, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I do. I find it like I would invite him to a dinner party because I feel like he'd be so great, so engaging, just interesting. And I like that
I agree.
he's got a great story of this background. Then he also has like a spiritual side to him.
Hmm.
Like
Hmm.
he's got a business side. Like he's a very well-rounded, interesting person.
He is. When little pieces came out, I read it. I read it probably because of Oprah,
Mm-hmm.
and I loved it. I lived it. I lived every chapter. I loved it. I loved it. And other books that he wrote, I read those too. My best friend Leonard, or my friend Leonard, or
Mm-hmm.
something. Beautiful. Great book, right?
Yeah.
But the meditation and the Taoism really opened a lot of doors for people too. So there's more to just being this incredible storyteller, but
Mm-hmm.
he was also inviting people to take a step out and explore something else to better
Oh.
themselves. And I really respected that, and it led me to some other things, and, I've had some friends that were addicted,
Mm-hmm.
and his book was really helpful for them, that they found other outlets to deal with their addiction
Yeah.
rather than just standard things. So, whatever anybody believes happened or didn't happen, I 100% stand next to him and the story that he told and the tools that he gave people. Yeah.
Well, that's what he wanted, right?
Hmm.
Was for you to
Hmm.
feel it,
Yeah,
to see it
you
through the
do.
eyes of the addict, right? It
Hmm.
did make me think a lot about when I try to write notes on my own life or like ideas. I trying to be careful of not just like chronological, because I do feel like it's a lot easier to just like, and then this and this and this and this, but you're like, that's really boring. Thank you for the timeline.
Right. Right.
So it's
Hmm.
something else little I got out of him. Yeah,
Hmm.
I feel like he's super interesting. I we watch my daughter and I watch American Housewife, and I was thinking about this Connecticut town that he lives in. So I'd like Googled like what is the town, and then I looked up like pictures of it, and I was like, oh my gosh! And I showed my daughter. I go, what does this look like? She's like, oh, that TV show, like this like perfect small town, right? This small
Hmm.
town, and like how it's portrayed. And I was like, this is so interesting.
Hmm.
This like that little clock, right, on the perfect cobblestone looking streets and
Right. Right.
little community. Yeah. Right. Thank you for listening. As my daughter would say, like and subscribe. Yeah.
Like and subscribe.